Daniel Kane gritted his teeth as the drop pod shook violently. The sky above Voltraxis was a burning red, clouds of ash twisting with streaks of lightning. The orbiting warships fired without pause. Every strike sent shockwaves through the barren surface. The planet was called dead, lifeless, but the moment Daniel hit the ground, he knew it was alive in some wrong way. Metal hissed as the pod opened. Daniel dropped onto the blackened soil, boots sinking into the fine dust. Around him, the strike team spread out. Corporal Briggs cursed, scanning the horizon. Lieutenant Harper checked her weapon again, her hands trembling. They all knew the odds. No one expected to survive. Daniel ran forward, pulling a wounded soldier, Vega, with him. The ground shook. A massive blast from orbit sent a cloud of dirt and burning debris into the air. Vega screamed and Daniel yelled back, trying to keep control. Enemy drones skittered out from under the dust. They were fast, relentless, firing with precision. Bullets tore through the air, hitting rocks and metal alike. Daniel dove behind a jagged boulder, Vega still in his arms. Harper and Briggs returned fire, trying to cover the retreat. Sparks flew from the drone bodies as energy rounds hit. One drone flipped into the air, then exploded. Daniel's heart raced. They had to move. Standing still meant death. He looked up and saw something strange. The sand around the drones shifted, moving as if it had a life of its own. He tried to warn the others, but no one had time to listen. Another explosion sent a piece of debris cutting past his shoulder. Pain shot through his arm, but he forced himself forward. He had to lead the team into safety. The team reached a rocky ridge. Daniel shoved Vega down and checked his weapon. He saw the others staring at him, fear in their eyes. He felt it too. Fear that their mission was a trap. Fear that command had sent them to die. But he pushed it down. Anger was better fuel than fear. Then he saw it. Half buried under the dust was a structure. Angular and metallic, it glowed faintly under the red sky. It hummed with a vibration that set Daniel's teeth on edge. He took a step closer, ignoring the others shouting at him to move. This was no ordinary wreckage. The planet was hiding something. Briggs pulled him back just as a drone fired. The energy beam cut a line through the ridge, throwing sparks everywhere. Daniel glanced back and saw Harper hit the ground, screaming. He swore, firing back at the drones with everything he had. His hands shook, but he kept shooting, keeping them alive. The ground beneath them shuddered. Dust rose like smoke from a fire. From the shadows of the ridge, the sand shifted again. A shape moved under the surface. Daniel froze. Something large, something alive, and it was coming for them. Vega groaned. Daniel looked down and saw the soldiers' eyes wide with terror. They had no choice. They ran. The ridge became a blur as drones chased, energy blasts striking the ground around them. Daniel felt the weight of command pressing on him. Every decision could get them killed. They reached the mouth of a hidden tunnel, jagged metal edges glowing faintly. Daniel hesitated. He felt it in his bones. Whatever was in that tunnel was watching. He signaled the team to follow and they scrambled inside. The moment they crossed the threshold, the ground behind them erupted. Dust and fire filled the air. Daniel turned to see a massive shadow moving under the surface, faster than any human should move. The drones scattered, but something larger emerged, looking directly at him. Daniel's heart pounded. He knew they had found something they were not meant to touch, something that had been waiting. He swallowed hard and stepped into the darkness, leading the team deeper, knowing the planet was far from dead and far from forgiving. Daniel led the team deeper into the tunnel. Darkness pressed around them, the metal walls humming faintly. Vega leaned heavily on him, groaning with every step. Dust and smoke from the surface fire still hung in the air, making it hard to breathe. Every sound echoed. Footsteps, breathing, the distant hum of alien machines. The tunnel opened into a wide chamber. Blue light glowed from symbols etched into the walls. Daniel froze. The markings pulsed with energy, almost like a heartbeat. Harper and Briggs stared, eyes wide. This was not just a tunnel. It was a base, alive with a presence that made the hair on Daniel's neck stand up. Suddenly, movement flickered at the edge of the light. Figures stepped out from the shadows. They were humanoid, smaller than humans, but strong. Their skin shimmered, reflecting the glow of the symbols. Daniel raised his weapon, ready to fire. One of the aliens raised its hand. Its voice was calm, sharp, in perfect English. "We mean no harm. You are far from your kind." Daniel hesitated. Vega moaned behind him, holding his side. Daniel motioned for the team to lower weapons, slowly. Trust had to start somewhere. The alien guide moved forward, eyes scanning the humans. "You are here to die. This place is watched. The drones you fled are only the beginning." Daniel's jaw tightened. He knew Command had sent them to die. Now he understood that death might come from more than orders. Briggs muttered, "We need to get out. This is worse than we thought." Daniel nodded. "We survive. We find what we can use. We fight back. That is all we have." His voice was firm, carrying authority even as fear churned inside. The alien led them through twisting corridors. Machines hummed and strange lights blinked. The humans had never seen technology like this. It was old and alive, connected to the planet itself. Daniel felt a pull in his chest, a warning. The planet was awake, and it had eyes. They reached a central chamber. A massive device pulsed with energy, half buried in the floor. The alien spoke quietly. "This can end the drones, but only at a cost. One must remain here. One must risk all to wake it fully." Daniel's hands clenched into fists. The decision weighed on him, but he said nothing. He would face the choice if it came. Harper whispered, "Can we trust them?" Daniel looked at her, then at the alien. "We have no choice. Either we trust them, or we die out there." He motioned forward. The team followed, hearts pounding. Suddenly, the walls shuddered. Alarms blared from unknown sources. Daniel spun around as drones burst through a side corridor. Energy blasts cut through the floor, sending sparks flying. The aliens moved with speed and precision, and the humans ran, firing and dodging. Daniel grabbed Vega, dragging him behind cover. The chamber shook violently. One alien was hit, screaming. Daniel felt rage and fear collide. The humans were outnumbered and outgunned, but they had to hold. Every second counted. The device in the center pulsed stronger, responding to the presence of life. Briggs shouted, "We can't hold them!" Daniel barked orders using both human tactics and the alien guide's instructions. The team moved in sync, throwing explosives, firing energy weapons, and ducking behind metal pillars. Sparks and smoke filled the air. Every breath was a fight. As the last of the drones fell, Daniel turned to see the device glowing brighter. Energy surged through the room and a low hum filled the air. The alien guide looked at Daniel, eyes grave. "It is awake. The cost has begun. Prepare yourself." Daniel swallowed hard, realizing that the planet had already marked them. The humans were no longer intruders. They were players in something far bigger than they had imagined. As the chamber shook again, Daniel knew the fight was far from over. Something moved beneath the device, unseen, watching, waiting for the moment to strike. Daniel stepped closer to the glowing device. Heat and energy radiated from it, making his skin prickle. Vega leaned against a metal wall, groaning. His wounds were worse than Daniel realized, but there was no time for medics. Every second counted. The alien guide motioned for them to stay back. "It chooses who may use it. Only one human can activate it fully. The others must survive outside. The choice is yours." Daniel clenched his jaw. He had not asked for this, but it was his duty. Command had sent them here to die. Now survival meant making impossible choices. Harper stepped forward. "We can't leave you alone with that thing." Daniel shook his head. "I go. We get it working. We win this planet. Maybe save ourselves. You stay alive. That is the only plan that works." Harper's eyes filled with tears. "Then we die too," she whispered. Daniel grabbed her shoulder. "No. We fight. We survive. Trust me." Briggs muttered under his breath, checking his weapon. "I don't like this. One guy against that machine?" Daniel didn't answer. He already knew the risk. This was not a mission anymore. It was survival, and survival demanded sacrifice. The device hummed louder. Energy pulsed through the floor, up the walls, filling the chamber with a blue-white light. The aliens watched, silent, as if waiting for Daniel to prove himself. He took a deep breath, steadying his fear. He could feel the planet's intelligence brushing against his mind, probing for weaknesses. He had to be ready. He reached for the control panel. Lights flashed and buttons responded to his touch. The energy surged violently, making the floor shake. Sparks shot from the panels and a high-pitched whining filled the air. Daniel gritted his teeth, pressing sequences the alien had shown him. The pulse increased, radiating outward, making the air itself feel alive. Then the first wave of enemy drones burst into the chamber. Daniel fired as he pressed more buttons, dodging beams that cut metal pillars in half. Vega yelled from behind a barrier, his hand pressed to a wound, but his eyes followed Daniel. Harper threw an explosive, taking down 2 drones, and Briggs fired rapidly. The chamber became chaos. Daniel's hands ached. He could feel the energy trying to push him back, testing his mind, his body. Sweat ran down his face, mixing with blood. He forced himself to continue, pressing and holding, letting the planet's power flow through him. Each second stretched into eternity. He could die at any moment. A massive energy surge erupted. Drones were torn apart mid-air. The walls cracked, glowing symbols flaring like fire. Daniel fell to one knee, gripping the panel. The alien beside him gasped. "It is responding to your will. Control it or perish." Daniel's teeth ground together. He refused to die. Vega cried out. A drone had slipped past the others and fired directly at him. Daniel reacted instinctively, throwing his body in front of Vega. Pain tore through him as energy grazed his shoulder. He shouted, ducking back, and the drone exploded under his counterattack. The chamber shook violently, more than before. The device pulsed, a living force inside the planet. Daniel realized then the truth. The weapon was not just a machine. It was alive, and it was judging him. Every thought, every hesitation, every fear. He could not fail. The alien guide stared at him, expression unreadable. Daniel could feel it thinking. The pulse of energy intensified, blue light flooding the chamber. The humans outside the device's range shielded their eyes. Fear etched on their faces. Daniel knew he was alone now, the planet and the machine intertwined with his fate. Suddenly, the ground beneath the device cracked. A massive shape moved below, larger than anything Daniel had imagined. The device had awakened it. Daniel's breath caught. He had triggered something that was no longer just defense or attack, something ancient, intelligent, and hungry. Daniel looked up, knowing there was no turning back. He had set the planet in motion. What came next would decide everything, but he did not know if survival was even possible. The machine thrummed, alive, and something unseen shifted beneath, waiting to strike. Daniel remained kneeling before the device as the energy surged through the chamber. The alien guide's eyes were fixed on him, silent and tense. He felt the pulse of the planet, a force bigger than anything he had ever known. Every nerve in his body screamed, every muscle ached, but he could not stop. The weapon was alive, and he was its conduit. Outside the device, Harper and Briggs tried to cover the entrance. Drones crashed against metal barriers, sparks flying from every impact. Vega struggled to stay upright, supporting himself with a metal beam. "Keep them off," Daniel shouted, barely audible over the roar of the energy. His voice carried command and desperation. The device pulsed faster. Blue-white light spread across the chamber, shadows flicking like living things. Daniel pressed the final controls, knowing the weapon would only reach full power if he risked everything. The energy shot through the floor, shaking the walls. He fell forward, bracing himself, sweat stinging his eyes. A drone slipped past Harper and Briggs. It fired directly at Daniel. He barely raised his arm in time, the blast burning through his sleeve. Pain ripped through him, but he ignored it. Every second he hesitated, the device's power grew unstable. He gritted his teeth, forcing the sequences through his mind. The planet trembled. The floor cracked beneath them, dust and debris falling from the ceiling. The device reacted violently, pulsing in resonance with the planet itself. Daniel felt a force pushing against him, testing his will. He shouted in defiance, using every ounce of strength to hold the activation. Harper ran forward, throwing an explosive at the remaining drones. Briggs fired at the beams of energy striking the walls, breaking them apart. Sparks and fire spread across the room. Daniel saw the humans outside the device struggling, but they held. He focused, shutting out the chaos, letting the energy flow through him. A massive shockwave burst from the device. Drones exploded mid-air. The chamber shook violently. The floor cracked wider. Daniel fell to one side, gripping the panel with both hands. The alien guide whispered, "It is awake. You must hold it." The words felt heavier than iron. He had no choice. If he let go, they would all die. Energy surged again. The chamber shook, metal bending and breaking. Daniel felt the pull from beneath the floor. Something large was moving, something ancient. It was alive, a predator that had been waiting, now roused by the weapon. Daniel knew that if it broke free, nothing would survive. The light blinded him. He forced his eyes open. Harper and Briggs were pinned by falling debris. Vega screamed, his injuries worsening. Daniel roared in anger, driving every fear into strength. He pushed the device to its limit, energy flowing from him into the chamber, into the planet itself. The ground beneath them cracked open. A massive shadow moved, larger than the humans, more massive than the device. It struck the floor, sending tremors through the chamber. Daniel felt the impact like a punch to his chest. Sparks flew. The humans outside shielded their eyes, screaming. Daniel stayed at the controls, willing the energy to contain the threat. The alien guide stepped forward, voice tense. "It has chosen. It recognizes you." Daniel did not understand. The thing beneath the floor stopped moving for a moment, waiting, watching. The pulse of the weapon and the movement of the entity matched. The planet was alive, the weapon was alive, and now they were connected. Daniel's vision blurred. Pain shot through his body, but he ignored it. He had done it. The weapon was fully active. The enemy drones above ground faltered as a shockwave spread outside. The planet's power was awake, and humanity had a chance. Then the shadow beneath the floor shifted again, faster, intelligent. It was no longer just a force of nature. It was aware. Daniel realized the fight was far from over. The planet had opened its eyes, and something had been watching, waiting for a chance to strike back. 6 months later, Daniel Kane stood on the bridge of the human fleet orbiting Voltraxis. The planet below was alive, cities of metal and light rising from the dust. Alien warships had been destroyed or captured. Drones still patrolled, but the humans had weapons that could match them. Daniel looked out over the burning skies, remembering the first day he had landed. Ground forces moved across the planet. Harper, now commanding a squad, relayed updates through her communicator. "Sector 7 is clear. We have minimal resistance." Daniel nodded. Victory had come at a cost. Many friends were gone, Vega among them. Daniel's chest tightened. He had survived, but survival felt hollow without the team he had led into hell. The first wave of human ground troops landed. Daniel watched as soldiers moved through streets once buried beneath centuries of dust. Alien defenses were still active, but the humans had learned, adapted, and now struck with precision. Every step was a calculation. Every building could hide a weapon, a trap, or an alien fighter. Daniel moved to the surface. Metal cracked under his boots as he walked. Explosions from residual drones lit the skyline. Harper waved him forward. They're holding, but the main force is concentrated north. Daniel nodded. He had to lead this attack personally. This was the moment humans showed they were not fragile, that they were relentless. The team advanced. Alien drones swooped down from ruined towers. Energy blasts tore the air. Daniel dove behind a pillar, firing back. Harper flanked left, Briggs covered the rear. Every movement was precise, every breath measured. Daniel felt the same adrenaline he had felt months ago, but now it was sharpened with strategy and experience. The humans pressed forward. Alien fortifications began to crumble under their assault. Daniel led a squad into the central plaza. Alien ships crashed around them. Daniel shouted orders, moving with speed and determination. Every enemy eliminated felt like revenge for the fallen comrades. Every step forward was a statement that humanity could endure. Suddenly, a massive shadow fell over the plaza. The creature Daniel had felt beneath the planet months ago had emerged. It towered over the battlefield, movements deliberate and intelligent. Soldiers froze. Energy weapons fired, striking the massive form with little effect. Daniel's heart pounded. This was what he had feared, the planet's ancient intelligence now awake and testing them. Daniel raised his weapon, signaling his squad. They pressed the attack, forcing the creature to move back. Explosions rocked the plaza. Buildings collapsed. Smoke filled the air. Daniel saw Harper take a hit and caught her before she fell. He felt the familiar mix of fear and determination. They had come too far to die now. The creature roared, a sound that shook the ground. Daniel's mind raced. He knew strategy was the only way to survive. Using the device's energy signature, he coordinated an attack. Energy pulses from the buried weapon struck the creature, slowing it, forcing it to retreat into the depths of the city. The humans advanced, securing the area, but Daniel felt the weight of the battle yet to come. As the dust settled, Daniel walked through the plaza. He saw the cost in bodies, the burned ruins, the smoke curling into the sky. Victory was theirs, but the planet had made them pay. He paused, looking at the horizon. A faint glow appeared in the shadows of a destroyed tower. The same intelligence that had watched him from the start was still present. Eyes unseen followed every human movement. Daniel knew then that Voltraxis was won, but the war had only just begun. Something ancient and aware remained, waiting, calculating humanity's next move. The fight was far from over.